Welcome to the Classroom TZ. Thank you for choosing this channel again. I'm Mr. Shadrach Swiller, and today we are going to discuss the third topic in the course of Form 1. It's going by the name Development of Economic Activities and their Impact. In this topic, we are going to check mainly economic activities done by African societies in the pre-colonial era. Before coming of coloniality, we'll check and we'll prove Africa continent, the Africans, they are their own activities in economic issues. So content, what are we going to cover? Number one, our objective is agriculture. We'll check agricultural activities in Africa, again before colonialism. Handicrafts industries and mining in pre-colonial Africa. So we'll check handicrafts activities done by Africans, industries made by Africans, and mining process in Africa before coming of colonialist method used in mining, and those minerals mined. Trade in pre-colonial Africa, and the last concept of today is going to be trade in pre-colonial Africa. According to the time, today we will cover agriculture. So let's start the first subtopic. By understanding this first subtopic, it is necessary to know the meaning of some terms. And here we're going to check the meaning of agriculture. It is stated that agriculture is the production activities that involve crop cultivation and livestock keeping. It started the end of late Stone Age, when man started to cultivate land for farming and domesticating animals. It referred as Neolithic Revolution. So agriculture, by defining, all of us we know, agriculture, it is when someone doing land cultivation or crop cultivation and keeping of livestock. So the activity that involve this two activity or dual activity, these are livestock keeping and the crop cultivation. So term agriculture refers to two activities. It is stated as one term, so it's a collective term. Inside of agriculture, we can have crop cultivation and livestock keeping. Most of us, we used to understand that agriculture is only about crop cultivation, but also keeping animals, the part of agriculture. So if someone keeping animals not doing crop cultivation, also that is agriculture, will be agriculturist, and the same if someone is doing crop cultivation without keeping animals, also it is agriculture. Although we used to understand most of time agriculture referred to crop cultivation, but not on that one side, agriculture also referred livestock keeping. So term agriculture consists of two words inside. The full or complete meaning of agriculture, it is crop cultivation and livestock keeping. Remember, these are activities. And then when we trace back human history in Africa, these events or these activities of keeping animals and doing crop cultivation, they say that was Neolithic Revolution. Neolithic Revolution referred to the changes or process whereby man started to domesticate animals at home and crop cultivation. These changes stopped man or helped man to stop depending on nature. Instead of working and rotating from first forest to another forest looking for the fruits and the animal, man settled in one permanent settlement and starting doing agriculture. So Neolithic Revolution refer to the beginning of agricultural activities in Africa. And when Neolithic Revolution started at the late of Stone Age. At the end of Stone Age, that is when man started to do agricultural activity. So they said these changes facilitated by development of technology, iron discovery, permanent settlement, trade, and nature of environment. There were some of supportive factors enabled man to undergo a Neolithic Revolution. Mainly it was permanent settlement. When man started to settle at one area, he developed the Neolithic Revolution. But that permanent settlement, it supported again by having strong tools. Those were iron tools. And also after producing or after surplus production, man done trade, and all those activities were determined by nature of the environment. That is brief introduction about agriculture in pre-colonial Africa. So that the picture showing man done or doing agriculture by using animals. It was very common in Africa. Remember, we didn't get machine, or we don't have machine at that time. This modern machine we are using brought by after interaction with the people from outside of Africa. But before that, in our places, we used to use what we have. That's why we say the agriculture is keeping of animals and crop cultivation. So Africans, they use the benefit of having animals. They use those animals to cultivate land. That's why it was necessary to have animals, especially cows. Cows used the tools of cultivating land before introduction of tractors. Types of agricultural practices in pre-colonial Africa. African people, they done different agricultural activities, again depending on nature of their environment. In history of Africa and everywhere, we cannot stop discussing nature of environment. Nature of environment determine the different activities and the type of history of specific or different place. So even here in agriculture, we got different types of agriculture because of the nature of environment. So number one, it is crop cultivation. Type number one of agriculture, it was crop cultivation. Crop cultivation is the agricultural activity that involve the use of land to grow crops. In pre-colonial Africa, it was done in two types, namely shifting cultivation and permanent cultivation. So here in crop cultivation, we mean production of crops or production of foods, planting of different crops, and at the end, we can get food. Planting of maize, planting of beans, planting of granite, and the other food crops. Remember, at the beginning, before interaction with the people from outside of Africa, main crops planted, it was food crops. The case of cash crops like coffee, cocoa, cotton, rubber, and the other raw material they brought by colonialists or strangers from outside for the purpose of reaching the demand of raw material. So before that, we planted mostly food crops. So this crop cultivation also divided into two subcategories. These categories are shifting cultivation and permanent cultivation. Shifting cultivation and permanent cultivation. Shifting cultivation, it was type of cultivation whereby farmers moved from one area to another. It was dominant in grassland areas, long dry season, and in scattered areas. Example of tribe Tanzania were Yao, Nyamwezi, Makonde, Mwera, and Sukuma. Types of crops grown were dry resistance crops like pumpkins, cassava, millet, and sorghum. So shifting cultivation, first the nature of this agriculture activity, it was moving from one place to another. And here, the one moved, it was not the land. In agriculture or in crop cultivation, the main tool for production is we need to have land. So here in shifting cultivation, we don't mean farmers moved with the land from one place to another. No, it is farmers, those individuals, moved from one place to another. And there is a reason why they done so. They done so because of climatic condition. Here I stated it was dominant in grassland areas and long dry seasons, and that is scattered areas. So because they lacked or they had uncertainty rainfall condition or availability of rainfall, that's why they shifted from one place to another to find the area where at least they can go to food. And mainly crops planted were those dry resistance crops like pumpkins, cassava, millet, and sorghum. So you can see, because of nature of these crops, it definitely they got challenge of availability of rain. That's why they planted these dry resistance crops. So shifting cultivation, the type of agriculture whereby farmer move from one area to another, specifically looking for the potential area where they can farm. And when that area is no more productive because of lack of rain, then they are shifting to another place. Or if they are settling there, they are planting dry resistance crops. This is shifting cultivation. From the word shift, move from one place to another. Who were moving are those farmers. Number 2, it is permanent cultivation. So opposite of shifting, it is permanent. Here in permanent, we mean staying at one place. Farmers lived at one place and done their activity, that agriculture. It occurred in one area for a long time. It was mainly in high rainfall areas like slope of mountains Kilimanjaro and the mountains Meru, Uluguru mountains, Karagwe, and southern highland, that is Mbeya and Iringa. These areas, even up to date, before intensive climatic change, so they were high rain receivers areas. They got rain through the year. Because they got enough rainfall, so it was easy for them to settle at one place and doing permanent cultivation. They never moved from one place to another because the place where they are living, they got enough rainfall supporting them for agriculture. Kilimanjaro, Mbeya, Meru, Uluguru, Karagwe, all those areas, they received the high level of rain and they got good climatic conditions, so it was easy for them to settle at one place. Permanent cultivation. So it is opposite of shifting cultivation. These are two categories of crop cultivation at the first type of agriculture. So first type of agriculture, it is crop cultivation. Inside of crop cultivation, we have shifting cultivation and permanent cultivation. I'm sure we are together, my dear students. Then, before going to the other type of agriculture, we have this issue called the techniques used to improve crop yield in pre-colonial African societies. We want to know what mechanisms used by African societies to ensure they are getting enough production in their lands or in the process of agriculture. So even pre-colonial African societies were clever, they applied different methods or techniques to ensure they are getting more production and surplus production for trade in their agricultural activity. The first technique applied was irrigation systems. This was the use of channel of water or pipes of water to supply water to the field to enable crop growing. These techniques were famous in Egypt, where it was called the Shadoof irrigation. Also in Tanzania, including Meru, Pale, Samba, and Chaga, who built furrows to channel water to their farms. So here in irrigation, all of us understand the term irrigation. It is the use of out of using rain water, we are using those. It can be river water or lake water, and creating system of taking that water to the field. So we are irrigating the crops. In Africa, the famous technique of irrigation, it was called the Shadoof. Shadoof, it was irrigation system discovered there in Egypt. So Egyptians were the best in agriculture. They applied Shadoof irrigation to irrigate their crops. By using Shadoof, man stopped depending again on nature, like to wait rain, then he can plant. So he can settle at a permanent place and using the resources nearby, maybe lake or dam, to irrigate the crops. But also in Tanzania, out of Shadoof, we built these furrows to channel water to our farms. It was famous there in Meru, Pale, Samba, and Chaga, where we built a channel of water from the source of water to the field in the plants. Also because of this, that's why they planted the crops through the year. The time when there is rain, they are planting. The time when there is no rain, they are using those channel of water to irrigate their crops. So irrigation systems. And here I have the pictures showing those irrigation systems. This one is Shadoof irrigation in ancient Egypt. So you can see the structure of this Shadoof, how they took water from the source and they pulled there to the field. And this is furrows irrigation systems. We are channeling water from the source to the farm. These furrows, it's shown like this. Down the edge, that is where water settled, and the top edge there, is where we are planting the crops. So when roots are going down, they are going to meet with the weight of water, and they can grow because there is the availability of water. So you can see there in wet, here in wet, it means that there is water, availability of water, and down here it is dry. So you can check here between wet and the size of roots. Here we are sure roots are going to meet the wet condition of the land. That wet is formed by the stream size in small size of water. That is furrows creating channel to the water, to the field. Another technique, it was application of fertilizers. Pre-colonial Africa's mostly animals manure was used to enrich the fertility of the soil. Animal manure was taken to the farm, and after decomposition it will make soil fertility. Cow, goat, and chicken manure were used mostly. Pale, Chaga, Samba, as well as people from Ukara and Ukerewe applied this technique. So before having modern this chemical fertilizer or chemical manure, previous we used those natural manure from the animals. This was from the animals. So from animals to the land, after decomposition, we are getting manure, it is fertilizing the soil. So before having these chemicals, we applied the manure from the animals. And here is where you are seeing how this two activity of agriculture depending on each other. The one who keeping animals and the same time doing crop cultivation, he benefiting from both sides. Animals supporting him or her to get manure to their plants, and the same time from the planting, the remains of those planting by using as the food to the animals. That is where agriculture, these two activities meet. Animals, there is benefit of animals to the crop cultivation, and also there is benefit of crop cultivation to the animal. So the system, it was complete. Application of fertilizer, we mean those manure, natural fertilizers from animals. And these were nice because they were not destroying the nutrient of the soil. Different to the current chemical fertilizers, there are some of claims from different farmers. They don't see same production as they were producing before application of this fertilizer. They didn't change anything. They're using the same farming method. They're using the same seeds. But when they apply the fertilizer, they are seeing changes on the size of production. And some of them, they said maybe because of these chemicals, they destroyed the nutrient of the soil. So it's different or contrary to the use of manure, fertilizer, those animals. Since they weren't there, we never had like there is low production because those manure or natural fertilizer, they were friends to the soil nutrients. Another one, it was crop rotation. A technique applied by Africans, it was crop rotation. This involved the seasonal rotation of crops on the same piece of the land. It was done for the purpose of increasing nutrients to the soil. So another technique of increasing nutrient to the soil, it was by not planting one crop in several years, but they done crop rotation. They said involved the seasonal rotation of the crop in the same piece. Seasonal rotation of the crop mean that, example, I have this illustration here. This is the piece of land, one piece of land, and it's starting here, or these areas, the one piece of land. In this one piece of land, they say the first year we planted the tomato in bed number 1, and bed number 2 we planted maybe that plant, and last we planted carrot. The second year we are switching. In the first bed where we planted tomato, we are planting carrot, and the third year we are planting another crop. So this, it was rotation. Because we changed the plants seasonally, we are not planting the same crop frequently in different years. No, 2021 we are planting maize, the same field. 2022 we are planting beans, the same field. 2023 we are planting sunflower, the same field. In that way, we are changing we are helping, or we are enabling nutrient of the soil not to be used much in one type of crop. That's called the crop rotation. Rotate types of crops in one field. Do not plant one crop in one field. This is commonly, and even up to today, some areas, especially in rural areas, they are applying this method, crop rotation. After crop rotation, the next one is intercropping. Intercropping was a process of planting or growing different varieties of crops in the same piece of land. Understand here, we are planting different or variety of crops in one piece of land. That's called the intercropping. Put more than one crop in one piece of land. Example, Swazi of Southern Africa intercropped pumpkins, melons, cowpeas, beans, and sweet potatoes. So all these 4 up to 5 crops were planted in one place. Also, Manganja of Southern Malawi intercropped maize with beans and the pumpkins. Why they done so? It is to apply effective utilization of that smaller piece of land. One smaller piece of land, it can give you different products. Instead of having only plant in one piece of land, we can effectively utilize that land by having different crops to minimize production, to maximize production, and having surplus crops or surplus production. That is intercropping. Somewhere I saw the question in this competency-based, they said you were traveling from Dar es Salaam to Arusha. Then when you reached the Kilimanjaro, you saw one field. Inside of that field, you found there is maize and the sunflower. When maize growing up, even sunflower grow up, it varies to differentiate. That is maize and that is beans. That is maize, that is sunflower. But the question is, why all those planted in one field? So the question it was, what kind of agriculture applied, or what kind of techniques applied by those people of Moshi when they are planting different crops in one piece of land? Example, that one you saw, there is maize, and at the same time there is sunflower. The answer, actually, they are doing intercropping. As I said, why intercropping? To minimize the production size by having effective utilization of that piece of land. So example, this image is showing in one piece or in one field there is different crops, and this is maize, and that one I'm sure that it is in beans. This is very common to different places, and you can check this picture. It is not AI generated picture, it is a real picture where we are planting these crops. Another one was agroforestry. Agroforestry, this was the technique of growing trees in the same field where food crops planted. It was common in Zimbabwe before colonialism. So agroforestry, so it is agriculture and forest. Agriculture, we are keeping animals in crop cultivation. So one part of agriculture, that is crop cultivation, and the forestry, so we are mixing trees and the or forestry plants and the crops. Example, we have this illustration here, or this image is showing there left side and right side there are those trees, and there in between there is plants. I'm sure those are maize. The same with this picture. So left and right they put trees, and there in between they put maize. Or that it was to increase utilization of the land and also to maintain the nutrient of the soil. That is referred to agroforest, planting food crops in the same place where there is trees. Those trees stand for the forest. Those were techniques, and the last one, it is terracing. This was farming which involved the construction of successive layers of flat areas on mountains or other terrains with steep inclines to better control soil conservation and runoff water. Example of tribe applied terracing were Akamba and Taita community in Kenya, Sambaa, Pare, Nyakyusa, Sukuma, Nyamwezi, and Hehe in Tanzania. Terracing, by explaining like that, is so difficult to create that imagination. How are they putting those layers? How are they constructing those edges? But by using pictures, is appearing like this. That image showing terracing, and it happened mainly in those steep slope, those areas where there is mountains, so they cannot live watching mountains there. So they found a way how they can use those slopes to plant their crops. So to avoid floods or soil erosion during rainfall, they used this terracing. So those steps were referred as terracing. Another picture to different places, that is the image showing terracing. And that one, it is really appearing in Africa in our places. Example where I'm coming from, there in Mbeya, there in Ileje, we used to see this terracing line, and our great fathers, they planted different crops. That is the image of terracing, and it was applied by Africans before colonialism. So to this extent, I will wonder if someone will say Africans or Africa, it was dark continent. Well, all those things were done without contacting with the Europeans. We didn't ask the Europeans helping to have these techniques. We done all these techniques before coming of them. So we're in the progress of developing. So type number 2 of agriculture is pastoralism. All those we are discussing, it was crop cultivation, and after crop cultivation, side number 2 of agriculture, it is animal keeping, and it's going by the name pastoralism. This involved the keeping animals and grazing livestock. It was done in arid, semi-arid, and savanna land that receive low amount of rainfall. People involved in pastoralism was called the pastoralists. It has 2 types as described below. We are going to check those types of pastoralism. But in brief, pastoralism referring to the process of keeping animals, and those who are doing pastoralism were called the pastoralists. So if you are keeping animal there at home, or if your family are doing keeping animals, they are doing pastoralism. And here in animals, we mean those domestic animals like cows, chicken, goats, and the other animals. But mainly in Africa it was cow, because cows use the manure, and also we got the power or the energy in farming. So types of pastoralism. We have 2 types of pastoralism. Number 1 is nomadic pastoralism. Nomadic pastoralism is generated from the word nomads. Nomad means that you're not settling at one place. You are moving from there to here, from here to there. In this type of pastoralist, those who are keeping animals, they moved from one place to another, searching for water and pasture for their animals. Example of societies practiced the nomadic were Tuaregs of northern Africa, Fulani of northern Nigeria, Somalis of Somalia, Karamojong of northern Uganda, Maasai of Tanzania, and Kenya. These societies are very, very important to remember as the example of nomadic pastoralists. So all these societies we mentioned below, they are not settling at one place. They are moving from one place to another and looking for the pasture and the food, meaning the water for their animals. In that way, they were not waiting until a rain is coming or what, and yet is pure proof that they were depending on nature. So they are grazing in this forest. When those grass are over, they are moving to another forest with their animals. That was nomadic pastoralism. And here, that is the map of Africa showing those societies practice the nomadic pastoralism. Tuaregs, Northern Africa, that color, the place where Tuaregs located. We have Fulani of Nigeria. This is Nigeria, and this is Fulani. Somalis of South Africa. Here the Horn of Africa. This is where Somalis found. Karamojong of Uganda. Karamojong, that was pastoralist society. Here that blue color in East Africa. And the Maasai of Tanzania, again in East Africa. This is a picture trying to show the location where this society are found. And there are 5 in number, so it's very easy to be asked in national exam, draw the map of Africa and locate pastoralist society. So you better know the location of these pastoralist societies as shown on the map. Then in part B of out of nomad or nomadic, it is sedentary pastoralism. So if nomadic, it was moving from one place to another. Here in sedentary, it is opposite of moving from one place to another. It is keeping animals in permanent areas. It involves small number of animals, differ from nomad. Sukuma were a best example of sedentary pastoralism. So here in sedentary we mean farmers or pastoralists, they never moved from one place to another with the animals looking for the pasture and water. They kept low number of animals and they put them in one place. That it was sedentary pastoralism. Before going to the mixed farming, here in sedentary pastoralism also we got some forms, although not official, most to be asked in exam, but it's better to have this idea. Sedentary pastoralism, also in town we are doing so. We have zero grazing and free layering. Zero grazing referring keeping animals inside the cage, and you're not opening those animals in the morning, go find food. The one or the pastoralist is responsible to provide food inside to the animals. This is famous in town because of small size of the city and also the environment of the people, government laws, and so we cannot open animals and leave animal rotating in town on street. But we have desire of keeping animals, so we are keeping small number of animals inside of the house, depending the size of your place. You can have maybe 2 cows or 3 goats or number of chicken. Then you are not opening those animals out. You are the one who is responsible to bring food to those animals. If you are doing so, that is referred to zero grazing, and it's very common in town. Out of zero grazing, opposite to that is free layering. Free layering is common in rural areas where there is a empty place. So here it means that in free layering, you're opening animals in the morning and you are freeing them. Themselves, they are going to find food for themselves, and at the end they are coming back. That is free layering. It is common in rural because there is a plenty of areas. Those are forms of sedentary pastoralism. What is mainly important, these people or those animals and the owner of those animals, they settled at one place. Sedentary pastoralism. And the last form, last type of agriculture is mixed farming. Involved the animal keeping and crop cultivation in same time. Example of societies were Ankole, Kimbu, Nyamwezi, Sukuma, Hutu, Pare, and Igogo. There are more than this, but these are just guidelines types of tribes. So in mixed it is when a farmer is doing 2 activities, all those activities at once. One time he or she have animals, and one time he or she have the place to farm. That is mixed farming. Doing those 2 activities, that is crop cultivation and animal keeping at the same time. That was referred to mixed farming. By saying so, those are the types of agriculture in pre-colonial. Starting type number 1, that was crop cultivation. Animal keeping or livestock keeping, and mixed farming. Then, out of those activities done by Africans in agriculture, another important thing to check it is how agriculture changed the man's life in pre-colonial Africa. How agriculture changed the man's life in pre-colonial Africa. So we are going to check the advantages of agriculture to pre-colonial African societies. Number 1, increase of production. Because of agriculture, man was able to produce enough food, even surplus. So because of discovery of agriculture, doing at one place, and they are applying those techniques we discussed before, those techniques enable the man to have good production and also led to have surplus in food. Rise of trade. Due to the surplus production, man was able to trade the remaining of production. Actually, in trade occurred by trading the remains. We are not trading what is necessary to use in our daily life. We are trading all those days, they traded the remains. Remember the trade at that time, it was about a trade system. So they exchanged the goods to goods. So they exchanged different crops after having the remains or surplus from the production. So agriculture led to the expansion or increase of trade. Caused the interaction. Man interacted with different communities with the same agricultural activities. So those who are doing animal keeping, when they met with their people doing animal keeping, they make interaction. The same those who are doing crop cultivation, maybe then the market in exchanging process, they make interaction because they are doing the same agricultural activities. So it caused the interaction or friendship between different societies who were doing the same agricultural activities. Formation of political organization. Agriculture led the permanent settlement, which need administration, hence political organization. Very, very easy. We cannot do those agriculture if we are not settling at one place. So to have effective agricultural activity, we need to settle at one place. And once we are settling at one place, we need administration to control those population. And once we are talking about administration, we mean formation of political organization. So that was the beginning of the rise of states. Emergence of specialization. People who specialized in animal keeping, crop farming, and mixed farming at large. So we got different works or different groups of people doing different activity. So we got people who are pastoralists, we got people who are farmers, and also we got those who are doing those activities at once. That is mixed farming. So lies or emergence of specialization. Animal keepers, crop cultivation, and mixed farming. Population increase. This is constant due to the food security. Population increased as they were able to feed the children. We cannot increase the population if we do have food security. So due to the availability of food, it was easy for them to increase population. So population increased mainly because we got security of the food. We got the assurance like we have the food to feed the children. By saying so, today is enough. Next period, we'll proceed with handicraft industries in pre-colonial. Again, thank you for choosing Classroom TZ. I'm Shadrach Swiller. See you.